Good evening to you all, my beloved viewers, and welcome to today's video on Waiting to Roar. Today's video is on Julius Malema, the rare gem of African politics. Recently, Julius Malema had an interview with Femelo Motene of Kaya FM. The interview was very extensive and brilliant, and if you ask me what I observed, I saw a rare display of confidence, a rare display of leadership, a rare display of intelligence, and a rare display of capacity. Viewers, please join me to watch this video, and do not forget to please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for we really appreciate you coming through. So I can tell you now, we're going to get through most questions that are not mine, because the people want to hear from you. So I wonder, I've looked at the manifesto, and you speak about the 7 pillars. But one of the central issues and the central themes that I think keep recurring is the issue of the economy. In your view, what is it that the ANC got wrong with this particular economy? Why is it that we're not seeing the kind of growth that we need to see? Of course, we've got issues of joblessness. And then we'll speak about your own structural changes that I think you're proposing to try and mitigate against the problems of unemployment.
No. Thank you very much. The ANC got it wrong when it stopped industrializing. Remember the Bantustans, typical Bantustans who had no idea what was happening in the world. But every big township of the Bantustans had factories. They were producing things for themselves. I come from Sishiu. When we were growing up, we used to see people coming back from work, buy food. Because in the morning, we won't see them. We're still sleeping. But in the afternoon, then it later made sense. They are working in the factories. They are producing clothes locally. Today, we don't produce anything. We don't produce toothpick. We don't produce the sticks of matches. And we expect to grow our economy. We have to, the ANC should have, from 1994, turned around the education, not RDPs. We should have made education free of charge, because the situation we find ourselves in now was deliberately created through education. For women, they were told you can't get educated because if you go to school, you won't get married. And then for men who had the opportunity to go to school, Verwoerd said, what is an African child going to do with mathematics? He was saying, mathematics is for higher jobs, and the higher jobs are reserved. Therefore, even if you have mathematics, you won't make it. So we should have given people free and compulsory education. That every child must go to school, and if that child is still very young, the parents must take the responsibility to make sure these children go to school, skill them, then from there industrialize and beneficiate. When you take raw chrome out of South Africa, I can guarantee you now, you are creating jobs where it is going to be processed, because it must be converted into steel. And that process, it's labor intensive. And that's why the Chinese take our chrome as is. So we take our raw material. If you take out a diamond, it has to be polished, it has to be cut, and it has to be processed into a finished goods, which we can do ourselves if we own our own minerals.
You're proposing 50% of the minerals to be beneficiated here in the country.
Absolutely.
By when? How soon do you think?
Well, in less than 5 years. In Niger, they just made a decision. France, you are going to buy our product with a market price. It's no longer going to be discounted, and it's going to happen now. So you don't need anything. You need a political will, a determination. But the problem is that you've got a group of old men and women who are compromised from CODESA. We don't know what the Oppenheimer family discussed with them when they went into exile. They said to them, we're going to end apartheid. You're going to come back and rule South Africa, and it is going to be business as usual. Meaning you don't tamper with business. You can do those things of yours of politics Where we are working, you won't do that. They agreed to it. We just know the issues that are above. We don't have the minute detail of what really transpired, because why would a person be scared to remove a statue of Kruger?
You really don't know? You were in the ANC, you really don't?
We raised it there. You see, the good thing with me is that you can never put it to me that you're saying it now. You can go back to my videos, and I like these social media guys. They go and
bring back the archives.
Old videos. Yeah. I raised everything I'm talking about now. I raised it in the ANC. In the conference where I was re-elected president of the Youth League 2011, all these issues I'm raising are official resolutions of the ANC Youth League. Nationalization of the Reserve Bank, nationalization of mines, establishment of state bank, free quality, decolonized education, all of that. I raised it in the ANC. You go to FNB and listen to me speaking, Zuma sitting at the back and everybody else at Johannesburg Stadium with President Mandela being there, me speaking. I raised all of these issues. I was not leading a political party. I was not asking for votes. I was just raising these matters as matters of principle. So the point I'm making is, if you have not been compromised, why would you be scared? Leave the economy and everything. A statue of a murderer. Every town in the whole of South Africa, small or big, has got a statue honoring apartheid generals. And Mugabe said, you can't tell me about South Africans are even scared to hit a statue of a white person. That's how much we are so compromised. So we need a new generation, which is not part of those commitments. We don't owe CODESA anything. We don't know what these guys discussed. They've had their 30 years to deliver on the product. We're a new generation with new challenges, and we cannot dare to CODESA minutes which we don't have.
Your point is exactly that you've been raising these things for over some time. You're not the only person. Many people have been asking these questions. We know that the private sector sits with billions that they don't want to spend. We know that this economy sits with only one kind of a people in this country, the minority, the white people, and that's not transforming. What are you going to do to get that to change?
Let's get our own capital. Let's generate our own capital. The white capital has kept liquid cash in the banks, and is refusing to invest it back into our economy because of pure racist reason, that they do not trust black men, and that they can't put their money in a country where they've got no guarantee. So rather liquid cash, because if anything happens, you just press transfer, but you can't transfer a building. You can't transfer an infrastructural development. So the rest will rather not entertain. I'm still to see very few white guys, maybe Carl Niels is one of them, who have no dual citizenship. Every white person that you know who's at that level, they've got South African passport, and they've got a British passport or a German passport. Because they don't want. They are not here. They are here physically because they are milking us, but they are somewhere else. So we need to create our own money. That's why we must own the state bank. You know, civil servants, this bank must give them bonds. They don't qualify, many of them, to get bonds. A teacher who taught me geography 15 years ago bought a Corolla. It was so beautiful and new, and Toyota Corolla was so excited. Met him this year, still driving the same car, because he cannot afford to get a car, despite the fact that he's a teacher. We grew up teachers being the most respected people. The bank is refusing to give him, with all the years in teaching as a civil servant and all of that, he doesn't qualify for a new latest version of Corolla. This state bank must come in. They say, where are you going to get the money, because you need 250 million as a guarantee? Then I say to them, no, Reserve Bank owns shares in African Bank. Why does the regulator get involved in the banks? The Reserve Bank must pull out. We take that money, that is our share, and then we build our own state-owned bank, or we put more money and buy everybody out and we buy Nedbank and convert it into a state bank.
Mr. Malema, I did promise that I'll take calls. Let me take a question quickly from LG, who's calling from Lyndhurst. LG, thanks for calling. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. I only have two smaller questions to my president.
Go ahead.
Good evening, President.
My brother, how are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to check, man. Seeing that EFF is very, they are very, they've got vision, they're a visionary party. What are the chances that South Africa will actually build, their very first car under EFF government? And then the other things that I just wanted to check with you, how is it that EFF is very much, it's able to make sure that after rallies, every other person is transported back home, and other political parties, especially the ANC, cannot do the same? How is it? How is it that EFF can flawlessly do that without, having to read about people being left at the stadium and sleeping under bridges after rallies?
LG, is that the only question? The only two questions?
Yeah, those are the only two questions that I had in mind.
Thanks very much for calling. I thought the line was dying on us. Mr. Malema?
Thank you very much. I think he raised a very important point. We don't manufacture a car,
Yes.
but we manufacture a fighter jet. How can we make the machines to fly and be unable to produce machines that are mobile on the road? It's a deliberate decision, and it is those, every time a president travels, you see him sitting here and the other president sitting here, they sign some documents there. That's where they are signing that, no, you won't do those things of cars. We are going to send German cars to you. And because you want to create jobs, you will assemble them there. You don't have to produce. So we are assembling German vehicles in South Africa. So we have no reason not to produce a car. Denel, if it can produce a fighter jet, a car is nothing. It needs a political will. We transport people back. We bring people into our stadiums and then we transport them back because, firstly, they are people. They have to be treated with respect. When the elderly gets into an EFF bus, the young ones must stand up and give the old ones the seat. Even the same in the stadiums, they're given preference. And outside the stadium, we create a tent called Lost and Found, where items are sent and people who miss their transport also go there. It's a rule in the EFF that the Secretary General doesn't leave the stadium until the last person has left. So they all go to the Lost and Found. There is what we call venue operating center. There are cameras everywhere. They check everybody. They're like, it's clear. Then we establish a taxi rank of not less than 100 taxis on site, which deals with lost and found and people who miss their transport. We take them from the stadium straight into their homes, and the instruction is very clear to the drivers. If it's a female, you must make sure that she's safe. And he says, how do I know he's safe? We say, once the light goes on, you know she's inside the house, then you can drive. That's how much we treat our supporters and members with respect. And it pains me that a 10-year organization can do that. An organization with more than a century still can't master the simplest thing as transporting people because they treat them as voting cattle.
Yeah. So you are an experienced politician. This is not new to you. You know, manifestos are what we call wish lists. People come here and promise us the earth. They tell us heaven is coming. So some of us don't believe it. But I don't expect the EFF to show us the numbers that you've put here in your manifesto without having done some scenario planning. So I'm curious what scenarios you're playing with when you can offer that a domestic worker will get about, you speak of different minimum wages. An example is a domestic worker, 6,000 rand, and many, many others. What's your model? What are you playing with here?
Well, we have to look at what are the conditions of our domestic workers. They make us to be what we are, but they are not properly paid. And you look at the farm workers. Without them, we can't eat the food we're eating. And the farmers become more rich and they exploit the workers. So what we look at is what could be a reasonable figure. And that is not like the maximum. That minimum wage means the entrance level. And remember, when we increase for domestic workers, it means your salary as well must go up. And therefore, we cannot paralyze you. People say, no, but where am I going to get this money? This is what I'm earning as the employer of this domestic worker. We say, once we push the lower ones up, you guys are also going to get the notch. And then we will be able to support our domestic workers. I think we've got the minimum wage now in South Africa sitting at 3.5.
Yes.
And that was almost maybe 5 years ago, because that we spoke about in 2019 in Parliament. So it can't be 3.5 even now. There should be some difference which explain that the cost of living is too high, and it's important that we try to meet them halfway.
So part of what I think South Africa's problem is not lack of resources or money. We know we've got resources, we've got minerals and so on. We actually also have people with skills.
Yes, absolutely.
And we do have the money. So I think part of our problem is managing our coffers. So in your view, you would have to restructure how we are managing, or what do you think would have to happen? Because the money is there, but we're certainly not seeing it do what it's supposed to do. In your view, apart from some of the policies that you've given us, what would have to change in how we're managing the money that we have?
We're wasting money, a lot of it. There's something called deputy ministers. You don't know them. No one knows them. We don't know what they're doing. Even when a minister goes overseas, the deputy minister is not allowed to act. He's not a member of cabinet. Paid a lot of money, houses, cars, Pretoria, Cape Town. That's a waste of money. But equally, why do you need provincial premiers? Why do you need MECs? Why do you need provincial legislatures? Because the Limpopo legislature, I don't know, the day they meet, it becomes, a Christmas. Everybody has to know they are going to meet. But in Parliament, we meet every day. Legislatures don't meet every day. They meet that day. Yet they get paid a lot of money. MECs, premiers. Now, you don't need these provinces. For what? We need to build a unitary state. From the provincial monies alone, we'll be able to save a lot of resources. And someone says, so what are we going to do with these workers? They will still have their roles there, but they will be redefined. And those that do not add value because they were cadre deployment, which there's nothing wrong with the cadre deployment, by the way. But the problem with the ANC cadre deployment is qualification. It doesn't consider qualifications. It considers sloganeering, who can sing the loudest. So I supported you to be a mayor. You're going to make me head of technical services. But my qualification is a history teacher. That's why you've got a problem of sewer. When you have a blockage of sewer everywhere, don't make noise. Just go and check who is the head of technical services here in them. The person has got no qualification. He's a member of SATU. They are comrades. They sing together. They employ each other. So cadre deployment must be on merits and must be on the basis that, yes, we prefer you, but you must go and compete. I mean, I participate in hiring of judges, and I get there with a name in my mind like, yo, I just like this guy. Like, this is the one. In the interviews, it just becomes pop. I'm no longer part of those things. I came with it, but you must still perform. I'm not married to the name. I'm married to quality. And people must be hired according to merit. So there are so many areas where we can maximize in terms of resources. But the biggest problem is corruption, which is not punishable. Because you can steal the money anyhow you want. It doesn't matter. Gweda Mantashe agreed that Busasa installed cameras. He didn't deny it. Nomvula agreed that he ate chickens every December. Bosasa was sending the chickens that are supposed to go to Lindela and prisons were going to Nomvula's house. She ate those chickens. She didn't deny. Thaba Makwetla said, I'm waiting for the invoice. For too long waiting for invoice, like how is the email not working? He says the service is provided, I was going to pay, I was waiting for invoice. Pure lies. You've got this classical example of people who said, yes, I know what you're talking about. But he doesn't charge them. They don't get arrested. There's not even a threat that they will be arrested. So how are you going to stop corruption? Enter any government building. And Floyd makes this point with ease. He says, you know, when you enter government buildings, for a second you'll even think there are no adults in this building. What do you mean? He says a ceiling is falling and an adult is working under that falling ceiling. An adult sees nothing wrong with that. Only children, when a ceiling is falling, they can't attend to it. Why would elderly people behave in a manner our people are behaving? So it's one of those things that we have a responsibility when we take over to instill a different culture.
I'll take more calls. Okay, Snega is in Kagiso. I'm sure he'll call back. Snega, hi.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Okay, number one. Hey, CIC, how are you?
Ronald Guy.
Good. Last time when you were here, I posed a question to you. I said to you,
yeah.
EFF, with the numbers that they have, they've got over 1 million membership, right?
Yes.
There's a possibility of them demonstrating something. Even your bank that can be owned by EFF members. Your response was you were still busy with registering and stuff. That was about 2 years ago. I still want to know. You want to go into government and demonstrate economic freedom. Why don't you use the membership that we have to demonstrate what you can do when you're in government? That's number one. Number two, I need to make you aware of this. In Mohali City, where you are part of the government,
yes,
there's a storm brewing there, right? Go and check the video of the guy who made a video in Mohali City. Second delivery is very poor. You are part of the government there. And I would make a request to say, go to Mohali City, go and check what is happening and rescue the government that you are part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Snega.
Well, in Mohali City, we've got a very committed fighters in the municipality who are the executive and the leadership there. If you go into their department, because you remember, in a coalition of some sort, each political party gets assigned its own department. If you go into our department, we even go overboard. We go into what they call informal settlements, they neglect them. We will go and open roads there, even if they are not tar roads, but at least some sort of access roads so that we go back to negotiate with taxis to take our people in there. Everywhere else where we see a pothole as the EFF in that municipality, we take it upon ourselves to make sure that those potholes are patched, because we believe that we must not be a part of a complaining people who are in government in Mohali City. Although we don't control the majority, whatever responsibility we are assigned to, we execute it to the best of our ability. And I take the advice that we need to go. I always think of this idea that maybe you can do insurance policy, maybe you can do federal policy. EFF has got so many members who are poor, and when they die, but we are not in the business of business. We're in the business of politics. And I just see us being sidetracked by such things. And then it appears like we're here for the monies. And that's why we're very skeptical. But I can tell you that, you know, by just looking at how we conduct our affairs, you will have an idea what kind of government is coming into power. We own the building that we are in, Winnie-Madikizela Mandela House. We're not renting it. We're owning it. It's a EFF property. We've got studios, state-of-the-art, podcast, television, radio, everything of the EFF. Every kind of event we put together, you'll realize is run with some sense of professionalism, of people who know what is expected from them. And then when we go to intervene in building people's houses, 1 there, 2 there, because we don't have money, but we try and make a contribution and then go and renovate old age home, orphanages. walk into those areas where the EFF has touched, you'll be able to see the kind of government we'll expect when we take over in 2024. So, well, the TG will have to deal with that of the business of business, because I agree, it doesn't necessarily have to be the EFF, but it has to be our own black-owned, business opportunities and economic opportunities that we should support and build, even if we are not in government. And we try to do that. We support a lot of business. When we're in Moses Mabhida now, we went to hire 20 catering companies that were black-owned, and majority of them led by Africans, because we try by all means to empower our own people. So it's an idea that we can discuss in the EFF. We're open to it, but a business, I know what it can do to an organization. Man, look at Chancellor House, got corrupted, messed up Midupi, and everywhere else they put their hand. So there was another one of the ANC called Tebe, and in the process, people hijacked them for their own individual benefits. Remember, I established an EFF company now. We do business of the EFF. I must leave at some point, and I must leave those things there. And then the organizational memory disappears, and people say, no, but this is mine. And then it goes and benefit a family. So, I don't know. The TG will be able to advise us whether we should get involved in business, but I'm not keen.
Thanks for staying with us. Continuing with your calls and questions with the EFF leader, Julius Malema, who's in studio with us. Thank you so much for being patient with us. Let me go to Karabo in Pretoria. Karabo, good evening and welcome.
Hello?
Hello, welcome.
Yes, I'd like to ask the President. President.
Hello, Lekai.
President, I've read the manifesto, and I can tell you the changes of white governance is very high. And my question that I want to ask is that I'm a person with disabilities, and to be honest, we have been sidelined on the government sector on some to job opportunities. This legislation that are already are not being enforced on the government departments. We've been applying, but we don't get those opportunities. Even our targets are not even met, from municipalities to private to government. So what is solution towards people with disabilities that can benefit and also be inclusive in the economy? Because of the moment we don't have those opportunities, obviously we won't even be inclusive even socially. So how not even outside, we barely see people with disabilities, because economically excluded, including social excluded. So what is solution regarding that issue? And if whether will there be any disability desk or forum in the EFF so that we can deal with these issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the issue of people living with disability is very important and very central to the EFF. One of the things I always ask is, why can't we build in 1 year houses for people with disability? Because we've got their stats. Some of them are even on the grants, and there are not too many that there shouldn't be a disabled person without a house that is conducive to their conditions. Why, if you can't take care of such few people who've got these challenges, what about this big nation if you can't take care of the most basic things? And then the second thing should be that there shouldn't be any government building which is not accessible to the disabled people, and including at a municipal level and anywhere else the service is provided directly to the public, people who can use a sign language. There should be someone who gets employed, whether the sign language person comes today or not, but we should know when the sign language person comes, we know who to call on to come and intervene. There shouldn't be any office, including Kaya FM, where we say there is no disabled person who can broadcast. There are many of them. It must be a deliberate decision that in every sphere of the economy, the same way we are now fighting for women that 50% or more must come in, we ought to have a policy that now puts a percentage that people with disability must be accommodated at this level. You do, including in business. When you give an account, and it must be an audit query, when you do an account of how much you have spent, where and how, the question should also follow, of these people, how many disabled people did you empower, both in procurement, in employment, and otherwise. We do that. There are not too many. We'll take care of almost all of them.
Dolo, I think I see you back, and it is Dolo, right? Thank you so much for calling.
Yes.
You're in Pretoria. Good evening. Hi.
Good evening, Madam
Tobe.
I just want to ask in relation to foreign policy. People come to our country under the auspice of asylum seeking. They open spaza shops, sell fake goods to our vulnerable communities. What is the EFF stance in relation to that?
Okay, thanks, Dolo. Nice and short.
Well, we don't agree with fake and expired food. That's the bottom line. And we, as the EFF, from time to time at the branch level, we go visit the shops to check the expiry dates and all of that. My problem is that we now associate fake food and expired food exclusively to those ones who are found in the villages and in the township, as if those are the people who can sell such things. And SPAR, I said this publicly many times, they've never challenged me. SPAR sells expired food. But because it's white-owned, no one speaks about that. It's like, no, expired food is associated with these ones and all of that. South Africa has got a right to protect its own economy, including small businesses and all of that. We must not avail our own properties to these people and then complain after that these people have come to open spaza shops, because none of these people has forced anyone. Actually, in front of my grandmother's house, one of them is there. He was in a shop that we grew up. That shop was there. Then I don't know what happened. They fought. Then he went next door. If you look at the design of their shops, are the same, and the color, they are colorful. And people say, these people come here and do this. But my question is, you guys give them the space to do what they are doing. And then you come back to complain. Our foreign policy, especially with the African continent, is that this continent is one. It has always been one. And you can't say, I don't like apartheid, I don't like colonialism, but I support borders. The borders were imposed on us by the colonialists during the scramble for Africa. And therefore, in undoing the work of colonialism, the borders have to be done away with. And you can't say, when you do away with the borders, these people are going to come into South Africa because they are starving where they are. We are starving in Limpopo. There's no border between us and Gauteng. But we have not left our homes there, and Limpopo is peoplesless because they went to Gauteng where there are resources, and because there is no border, they are flocking there. No one will ever abandon their countries to come here. All we're doing is, my sister, if you want to go to Nigeria to go and try some business opportunities or anything of that sort, wake up in the morning and go. Why are the Europeans allowed to do it? They eat breakfast in Milan, in Italy, and go and sleep in Paris without a hassle. And we are not allowed because the unity of Africa is a threat to certain people. There is no, and I say this all the time, they say, no, these foreigners take our jobs and all of that. I say, if we find a foreigner working here at Kaya FM, he didn't employ himself. He was employed by the bosses here. So you cannot fight this one. You have to fight the bosses that we must be given a preference, which we agree with. But let's not allow them to make us fight amongst ourselves because they enjoy that. They hire foreigners and then they come to you and say, you can't get jobs because foreigners have taken jobs all over. But who employs these people? It's the same people who are saying foreigners have taken jobs.
Mr. Malema, let's talk about the elections, the upcoming elections. Of course, you would like to win 50 plus 1. Of course, that's what you would like to get. Many say the same thing. No poll says that there will be one majority. That's not to say polls are always right. That's not to say that. But what would be your second best option? What would be the best case scenario outside of winning the majority?
Well, the best option is that you go into a coalition.
Yes.
So once the voters don't give anyone a decisive majority, they are saying to you, it's a loud whispering, you guys have to work together. So we have to navigate it through principles. And not only principles, but the kind of leadership and leadership you are bringing to the fore. And I was giving an example this morning that if I had to bring in Ndlozi and say, we're going to coalition with the ANC in Gauteng, we want premiership, yes, in Ndlozi. The ANC says, we want premiership, yes, Lesotho. And then I leave it to you, the voters, and say, okay, look at the two. Nowhere does Lesotho come close, not only in looks, in everything, in all respect, close to Ndlozi. Ndlozi is one guy who was favored by God. He's got the brains, the lady says he's got the looks, I don't know that. And then he's got humility, he's got a voice to sing. I've never seen everything in one person. That's the kind of people who are giving you. And you'll have to make a decision. But the other thing, which every time people say, oh, Ndlozi, they jump to me. So I know there's going to be the last statement which is going to be made. They say, but you are too short. That's very important. So now so I bring this, and then you bring Panyaza, who goes around faking jobs, faking letters, creating an impression, is giving people jobs and calling people. Even apartheid never did that. Will come and collect your appointment letter, come and display your poverty at Orlando Stadium, and then we must give you a letter that from now onwards you are employed. When I made that application for my dignity, I did it alone. I was not in a stadium. You gave me an email address, I made my application, gave me the address, I put in the envelope, I came there. So now why must I be announced?